3 years ago, I was sitting in my car in a McDonald's parking lot in downtown Austin, Texas, crying over a bank notification on my phone. Insufficient funds, 347. That was all I had left to my name. I remember the exact smell of that moment. Stale French fries mixed with the leather seats of my 2009 Honda Civic that was making strange noises I couldn't afford to fix. I was 32 years old, a college graduate with a marketing degree, working 3 part-time jobs just to barely survive, and I felt like the biggest failure on earth. But here's what I want you to know right from the start. That moment in that parking lot was actually the beginning of the most incredible transformation of my life. Because what happened next didn't just change my bank account. It changed everything I believed about reality, about possibility, and about the power we all have to create our lives from the inside out. Today, I'm sitting in my home office in the hills overlooking Austin, running a 7-figure digital marketing agency, working with dream clients, and living a life that 3 years ago seemed absolutely impossible. And I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you this because if it happened for me, starting from where I was, it can happen for you too. My name is Maya, and this is the story of how I went from completely broke to financial breakthrough using something most people think is too good to be true: the law of attraction. Let me take you back to that dark period. It wasn't just about the money, though that was crushing enough. It was about what the lack of money represented. The feeling that I was stuck, that I wasn't good enough, that somehow life was happening to me instead of through me. I was working at a coffee shop downtown, doing freelance social media for small businesses on weekends, and delivering food for a delivery app most evenings. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., shower in my tiny studio apartment where the hot water only lasted about 3 minutes, and look at myself in the cracked bathroom mirror wondering how I'd ended up here. The worst part wasn't even the financial stress, it was the shame. The shame of being in my 30s and having to text my mom to ask if she could help with groceries. The shame of declining every single social invitation because I literally couldn't afford a $12 drink at happy hour. The shame of lying to friends about why I couldn't come to birthday dinners or weekend trips. I remember one particularly brutal Tuesday morning at the coffee shop. I was working the opening shift, and this woman came in, probably around my age, wearing this beautiful blazer and carrying a leather bag that probably cost more than I made in a month. She ordered this elaborate drink and was talking on her phone about closing some business deal while I made her latte. As I handed her the drink, she barely looked at me. And in that moment, I felt invisible, like I was background noise in someone else's successful life. I went to the bathroom on my break and just sobbed. I felt like I was disappearing, like I was becoming smaller and smaller, like I'd never matter in this world. That night, I came home to my studio apartment and sat on my secondhand couch, eating ramen noodles for the 4th time that week, and I had this thought that scared me. What if this is it? What if this is as good as it gets? The fear in that question was so real I could taste it, metallic and sharp in the back of my throat. But sometimes our lowest moments are exactly when the universe decides to send us exactly what we need. 3 days after that crying episode in the McDonald's parking lot, I was scrolling through YouTube, probably procrastinating on job applications, when I clicked on this video with a title that seemed almost too bold: How I Manifested $50,000 in 90 Days. Normally, I would have rolled my eyes and clicked away. But something about the woman speaking felt different. She wasn't promising some get-rich-quick scheme or trying to sell me anything. She was just sitting in what looked like her kitchen, sharing her story with this raw honesty that made me keep listening. She talked about something called the law of attraction, the idea that our thoughts and feelings literally create our reality, that we're not victims of circumstance, but co-creators of our experience, that the universe is always responding to the energy we're putting out, whether we're conscious of it or not. At first, my logical mind was skeptical. I mean, I had a college education. I believed in hard work and practical solutions. The idea that I could think my way to a better financial situation sounded like wishful thinking at best, and dangerous delusion at worst. But then she said something that stopped me in my tracks. Your current financial situation isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of your beliefs about what you deserve and what's possible for you. I felt something shift in my chest when she said that, because deep down, I knew she was right. I realized I'd been walking around with this constant internal dialogue of limitation. Money is hard to come by. Good opportunities go to other people. I'm not the type of person who gets lucky breaks. I'm not smart enough, connected enough, talented enough. I'd been so focused on my circumstances that I'd never questioned the thoughts and beliefs that were creating those circumstances in the first place. That night, I stayed up until 2 a.m. watching video after video, reading article after article about the law of attraction. I learned about visualization, about gratitude, about the power of our emotional state to attract experiences that match that state. I learned about Napoleon Hill and his interviews with the most successful people of his time, who all understood this principle of directed thinking, about Neville Goddard and his teachings on imagination as the creative force of reality, about the quantum physics research suggesting that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping physical reality. But more than the science or the philosophy, what got me was the stories. Ordinary people from ordinary circumstances who had completely transformed their lives by changing their internal world first. So I decided to try it. What did I have to lose? My current approach clearly wasn't working. I started small. Every morning, before I even got out of bed, I would spend 10 minutes visualizing a different version of my life. Not just the money, though that was part of it, but the feeling of confidence, of contribution, of being valued for my talents. I would close my eyes and imagine walking into my own office space. I could smell the coffee brewing, feel the smooth surface of a beautiful desk, hear the gentle hum of productivity. I would imagine checking my business bank account and feeling that flutter of excitement and gratitude as I saw numbers that reflected true abundance. But here's what was interesting. At first, it felt almost impossible to hold those images. My mind would immediately jump to all the reasons why it couldn't happen. You don't have any money to start a business. You don't have the right connections. You've tried freelancing before and it didn't work. The resistance was so strong it was almost physical, like trying to swim upstream against a river of my own limiting beliefs. But I kept going. Every morning, 10 minutes of visualization. Every evening, I would write in a gratitude journal, finding 3 things to appreciate about my current situation, no matter how small. I'm grateful for my reliable car. I'm grateful for my good health. I'm grateful for the free Wi-Fi at the coffee shop where I can research business ideas. I started paying attention to my thoughts throughout the day, catching myself when I would slip into that familiar pattern of financial worry and scarcity thinking. Instead of entertaining those thoughts, I would redirect, actually, I'm in the process of creating something amazing. Money flows to me easily and abundantly. The universe is conspiring to help me succeed. At first, saying these things felt like lying to myself. But I'd read that the point wasn't to believe them immediately. It was to create new neural pathways, to give my mind a different story to tell about what was possible. About 2 weeks into this new practice, something small but significant happened. I was at the coffee shop, and this regular customer, a woman who owned a local boutique, overheard me talking to a coworker about some social media strategy ideas I had for small businesses. She approached me during my break and said, "I couldn't help but overhear what you were saying about Instagram marketing. My social media is a disaster, and I'm losing customers to competitors who have a better online presence. Would you be interested in helping me?" My heart started racing. This was exactly the kind of opportunity I'd been visualizing, someone recognizing my skills and wanting to pay me for them. But immediately, my old thought patterns kicked in. You're not qualified enough. What if you mess up? You can't charge what you're really worth. But then I remembered what I'd been practicing. I took a deep breath, connected to that feeling of confidence I'd been cultivating in my morning visualizations, and said, "I'd love to help you. Let's talk about what you need and how we can work together." We met that weekend, and I landed my first real client, $800 a month to manage her social media and create content. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was validation. It was proof that the universe was starting to respond to this new energy I was putting out. More importantly, it shifted something in my identity. For the first time in years, someone saw me as a professional, as someone with valuable skills, not just as the girl behind the coffee counter. But here's where the story gets interesting, and where I learned that the law of attraction isn't just about positive thinking. It's about becoming energetically aligned with what you want to create. That first client success filled me with so much excitement and hope. I started telling everyone about my side business, and I could feel this momentum building. I was still working at the coffee shop, but now I had this sense of purpose, this feeling that I was building towards something bigger. But then, about a month later, things got rocky. My boutique client started questioning every post I made. She'd call me at odd hours with complaints about engagement rates. She'd compare me to other marketing agencies that charged 5 times what I was charging and expect the same level of service. The stress started getting to me. I found myself lying awake at night, worrying about losing this client, checking my phone obsessively for her messages, second-guessing every creative decision I made. And then, inevitably, she fired me, said she was going with a more experienced agency. I remember getting that email on a Thursday afternoon, reading it in my car before my evening delivery shift, and feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. All those old thoughts came flooding back. See? You're not cut out for this. Who were you kidding thinking you could run a business? You should just accept that you're meant to work for other people. For about 2 weeks, I fell back into my old patterns. I stopped visualizing. I stopped journaling. I went back to complaining about my circumstances instead of taking responsibility for creating something different. But then I remembered something I'd read about the law of attraction, that it's not just about attracting what you want. It's also about releasing what no longer serves you. Sometimes what looks like a setback is actually the universe clearing space for something better. I realized that client relationship had been built on my own insecurity and desperation. I'd been so grateful for any opportunity that I'd accepted poor treatment and undervalued my services. The universe wasn't punishing me. It was showing me that I needed to raise my standards and get clear about what kind of business relationships I actually wanted to create. So I went back to my practices, but this time with more specificity. Instead of just visualizing success, I started getting crystal clear about exactly what I wanted. I wanted clients who valued my expertise. I wanted to work on projects that excited me. I wanted to charge rates that reflected my worth. I wanted to work with people who were as committed to their success as I was. I created what I called my dream client profile. I would visualize this ideal client in detail. Someone who was successful but humble, creative but decisive. Someone who saw our relationship as a partnership rather than a hierarchy. I also started working on my own self-worth. I realized that if I wanted to attract clients who valued me, I had to value myself first. So I started investing in my skills. I took online courses in digital marketing. I read every book I could find about business and entrepreneurship. I started following successful marketers and studying their strategies. But most importantly, I started acting as if I already was the successful business owner I wanted to become. I created a professional website. I developed packages and pricing that reflected what I wanted to earn, not what I thought I could get away with charging. I started showing up differently on social media, not as someone desperately seeking clients, but as someone confidently sharing valuable insights and attracting the right people. And then the synchronicities started happening. I was at a networking event downtown, something I never would have attended when I was in my scarcity mindset because I would have focused on the $15 entrance fee. But now I saw it as an investment in my future. I was talking to this woman named Sarah who owned a wellness center. She mentioned struggling with her online presence, and instead of immediately pitching my services, I just listened. I asked questions about her goals, her challenges, her vision for her business. By the end of our conversation, she was asking me about my rates. But here's the beautiful part. When I told her my pricing, she didn't flinch. She said, "That sounds perfect. When can we start?" Sarah became not just a client, but a mentor and eventually a friend. She introduced me to other business owners in her network. She gave me testimonials that helped me attract even better clients. She paid on time, valued my input, and treated me like the professional I was becoming. Within 6 months of losing that first difficult client, I had 5 clients paying me a total of $4,500 a month. I was able to quit 2 of my 3 jobs and focus more energy on growing my business. But the real transformation wasn't just in my bank account. It was in how I saw myself and how I moved through the world. I started walking differently, talking differently. When people asked what I did, instead of saying I work at a coffee shop, but I also do some marketing stuff on the side, I would say, I run a digital marketing consultancy specializing in small businesses. I started dressing differently too. I invested in a few quality pieces of clothing that made me feel professional and confident. I got a good haircut. I started carrying myself like someone who belonged in business meetings and networking events. And the more I embodied this identity, the more opportunities came my way. A client referred me to her business coach, who was looking for someone to handle marketing for her online courses. That contract was worth $2,000 a month and introduced me to the world of digital products and online education. Another client mentioned me to her accountant, who was launching a new practice and needed help with branding and social media. That relationship led to 3 more accounting firms hiring me. Each success built on the last. Each new client raised my confidence and my rates. Each month, I was able to invest more in my business. Better tools, more education, professional development. But perhaps the most significant moment came about 8 months after I'd started this journey. I was having coffee with Sarah, updating her on how the business was growing, when she said something that stopped me in my tracks. "Maya, do you realize what you've created here? You've built exactly what you visualized. Remember when you first told me about your dream of having your own agency, working with clients you loved, making enough money to live comfortably and pursue your passions? You're living that life right now." I looked around the coffee shop where we were sitting, not the one where I used to work, but a beautiful independent place in the Arts District where I now held client meetings. I was wearing a blazer I'd bought without checking my bank account first. I had my MacBook Pro open with a project I was genuinely excited about. My phone had 3 messages from potential new clients who'd found me through referrals. She was right. Somehow, without me fully realizing it, I'd created the life I'd been visualizing. By the end of my first year focusing on the law of attraction and building my business intentionally, I was making $8,000 a month. But more than that, I was doing work I loved, with people I respected, on projects that made a real difference in their businesses. I moved out of my studio apartment into a beautiful 1-bedroom place with big windows and space for a proper home office. I bought my first new car, not flashy, but reliable, and mine. I started a savings account and watched it grow each month instead of constantly depleting. But the biggest transformation was internal. That feeling of invisibility, of being background noise in other people's success stories, was completely gone. I felt valuable, confident, purposeful. I knew that I had something meaningful to contribute to the world. I started sharing my story on social media, not to brag, but because I remembered how powerful it had been to hear other people's transformation stories when I was struggling. The response was incredible. People reached out saying my posts had inspired them to start their own businesses, to raise their rates, to believe in their own potential. That's when I realized my true calling wasn't just marketing. It was helping other people understand their own power to create the lives they wanted. So I started offering coaching alongside my marketing services. I developed a program called Manifest Your Business that combined practical business strategy with law of attraction principles. I taught people how to identify and shift their limiting beliefs, how to visualize and feel their way into their desired reality, how to take inspired action from a place of abundance rather than desperation. The second year was even more incredible. My combined marketing and coaching business generated $180,000. I hired my first employee. I started speaking at conferences and workshops. I was featured in podcasts and online publications as a success story of someone who'd built a thriving business from nothing. But the most meaningful moment came when I received an email from a woman named Jennifer, who'd been following my content and had enrolled in my coaching program. She wrote, "Maya, 6 months ago, I was exactly where you were in that McDonald's parking lot, broke, scared, and convinced I was destined to struggle forever. I found your story and decided to try your approach. Today, I just landed my first $5,000 client, but more than the money, I wanted to thank you for helping me remember who I really am. For the first time in years, I feel like myself again." Reading that email, I cried. Not from sadness this time, but from overwhelming gratitude. I realized that my struggles hadn't been meaningless. They'd been preparation for my purpose. Every moment of fear, every financial stress, every night of doubt had led me to this moment where I could help other people transform their lives too. Now, 3 years later, my business generates over 7 figures annually. I have a team of 5 people. We work with clients all over the world. I've written a book about using the law of attraction in business that became a bestseller. I speak at conferences and have been featured on major podcasts and TV shows. But you know what I'm most proud of? It's not the money, though financial freedom is beautiful. It's not even the business success, though I love the work I do. What I'm most proud of is who I've become in the process. The woman sitting in that McDonald's parking lot 3 years ago felt powerless, invisible, like life was happening to her. The woman I am today knows that I am the co-creator of my reality. I understand that my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are literally shaping my experience moment by moment. I wake up every morning excited about the day ahead, knowing that I have the power to create whatever I choose to focus on. I go to sleep every night grateful for the abundance that flows through my life. Not just material abundance, but abundance of purpose, connection, growth, and contribution. But here's what I want you to understand. I'm not special. I don't have any magical powers or secret connections or advantages that made this possible for me and impossible for you. What I have is understanding. Understanding that the law of attraction isn't wishful thinking or positive thinking or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about taking full responsibility for your role in creating your reality and then using that power consciously and intentionally. Let me share with you the specific practices that created this transformation, because I want you to know that this isn't just inspiration, it's a replicable process. First, I got crystal clear about what I actually wanted. Not just more money, but specifically how much, by when, and what I wanted to do to earn it. I wrote detailed descriptions of my ideal clients, my ideal workday, my ideal income. I made it so specific that I could feel what it would be like to live that reality. Second, I aligned my thoughts, feelings, and actions with that vision every single day. Every morning, I spent time visualizing my success as if it had already happened. I felt the emotions of gratitude, excitement, and confidence that came with living my dream life. Then, I took action from that elevated emotional state. Third, I paid attention to my internal dialogue and consistently redirected limiting thoughts. Instead of, "I can't afford that," I would think, "That's not a priority for me right now, but abundance is flowing to me." Instead of, "I'm not qualified enough," I would think, "I'm exactly where I need to be, and I'm constantly growing and learning." Fourth, I practiced gratitude relentlessly. Even when things were challenging, I found things to appreciate. Gratitude became my default emotional state, and that gratitude attracted more things to be grateful for. Fifth, I followed my intuition and took inspired action. The law of attraction isn't just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about being open to guidance and taking action when opportunities arise. Sometimes that meant having conversations I was nervous about, investing money I didn't think I could afford to invest, or saying yes to opportunities that scared me. And finally, I surrounded myself with people who believed in possibility. I stopped spending time with people who were constantly complaining about their circumstances and started connecting with people who were actively creating positive change in their lives. But I want to be honest with you about something. This journey hasn't been all smooth sailing. Even after I understood these principles and started seeing results, I still had moments of doubt, setbacks that challenged my faith, times when it felt like nothing was working. There was a period in my second year when I lost 2 major clients in the same week. My first instinct was to panic, to fall back into scarcity thinking, to start believing that maybe I'd just gotten lucky and now my luck was running out. But this time, instead of spiraling into fear, I used the tools I'd developed. I sat with the disappointment and frustration without judging those feelings. I reminded myself that setbacks are often redirects, the universe clearing space for something better. I got back to my daily practices of visualization and gratitude. I asked myself, what is this experience here to teach me? What I realized was that I'd been taking on clients out of fear rather than alignment. I'd been saying yes to projects that didn't excite me because I was afraid to turn down money. The universe was showing me that it was time to be even more selective, even more aligned with my true vision. Within a month, I'd attracted 2 new clients who were better fits, paid higher rates, and led to opportunities I never could have imagined. But I only attracted those opportunities because I'd done the inner work to stay aligned with my vision instead of contracting into fear. That's the real secret of the law of attraction. It's not about never having challenges. It's about responding to challenges from a place of trust and empowerment rather than fear and victimhood. As I sit here now, reflecting on this incredible journey, I'm filled with so much gratitude and wonder. 3 years ago, I genuinely believed that my circumstances were permanent. I thought that financial struggle was just my lot in life, that some people were meant to be successful and others weren't, and I was firmly in the second category. Now I understand that our circumstances are simply the result of our past thinking, and we have the power to change our thinking at any moment. Every single day, we're creating our future reality through the thoughts we think, the emotions we feel, and the actions we take. I think about that woman in the McDonald's parking lot, crying over 347, feeling invisible and powerless. If I could go back and talk to her, I would hold her hands and say, "Everything you're going through right now is preparing you for something beautiful. Your struggles are not permanent. Your current situation is not your final destination. You have more power than you realize, and you're about to discover it." But I also know that version of me wasn't ready to hear that message yet. She had to go through her own journey of discovery, her own process of remembering her power. And maybe that's exactly how it was supposed to happen. Because now, when I work with clients who are where I used to be, broke, scared, convinced that success is for other people, I can speak to them from a place of authentic understanding. I'm not someone who was born into privilege teaching them to just think positive. I'm someone who is exactly where they are and found a way out. The ripple effects of this transformation extend far beyond my own life. My success has allowed me to support my parents who sacrificed so much for my education. I've been able to contribute to causes I care about. I've created jobs for other people. I've helped hundreds of clients build their own successful businesses. But perhaps most importantly, I've become living proof that the law of attraction works, not just for people who were already successful, not just for people with advantages I didn't have, but for ordinary people who are willing to take extraordinary responsibility for their lives. Every time someone reads my story or works with me and creates their own transformation, they become living proof too. They become evidence that change is possible, that our circumstances don't define us, that we all have the power to create lives we love. This is how the world changes, one person at a time, remembering their power and then helping others remember theirs. So here's what I want you to know. Wherever you are in your own journey right now, whether you're in your own McDonald's parking lot moment or you're already on your path but facing obstacles, or you're somewhere in between, you have everything you need within you to create the life you truly want. The law of attraction isn't magic, even though the results can feel magical. It's a natural law of the universe, as reliable as gravity. What you focus on expands. What you think about consistently becomes your reality. The energy you put out is the energy you get back. Your financial situation right now, whether it's abundance or struggle, is not a reflection of your worth as a person. It's simply a reflection of your current beliefs about money, success, and what's possible for you. And beliefs can be changed. You don't need special connections or advantages or talents that you don't already have. You don't need to wait for the right time, or for someone to give you permission or for circumstances to be perfect. What you need is the willingness to take responsibility for your role in creating your current reality, and the commitment to use that power consciously to create something different. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. The universe is always ready to meet you halfway. Trust me when I tell you that your story is not over. Your best chapters are still being written. And the power to write them exactly as you choose has been in your hands all along. The question isn't whether you have the power to transform your life. You do. The question is, are you ready to use it? Your future self is waiting for you to believe in what's possible. And when you do, everything changes. If this story resonates with you, if something inside you is saying, yes, this is possible for me too, I want you to take action right now. Don't wait until tomorrow or next week or when you feel more ready. Comment below and tell me, what is one financial goal you're ready to manifest in your life? Get specific. Write it down as if it's already happening. Say I am instead of I want or I hope. For example, I am earning $10,000 a month doing work I love, or I am debt-free and building my savings, or I am launching my successful business. When you declare your intention publicly, you're making a commitment not just to me or to the people reading this, but to the universe itself. You're saying, I'm ready to step into my power. And if you believe that everything happens for a reason, that you found this story at exactly the right time, that the universe is always conspiring to help you succeed, comment below, I trust the process. Remember to like this video if it inspired you, and subscribe to this channel for more stories of transformation and manifestation. Share this with someone who needs to remember their own power today. Your transformation is not just possible, it's inevitable, once you align with the truth of who you really are. The universe is waiting for you to say yes to yourself. What are you waiting for?